Coming up tonight on YCN News, controversy in the New Hampshire Senate over Medicaid expansion. The North Country Balsams Resort could make a return. And in Vermont, a replacement for the dam at Lake Fairley. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN News, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Thursday, May 21st. I'm Laura James. Welcome to YCN News. Budget wrangling in the New Hampshire State Senate continues with a vote today to end Medicaid expansion, sparking controversy between the two parties. Senate Democrat leader Jeff Woodburn says in a statement today that Senate Republicans' vote to end health care insurance for the state's working poor is irresponsible. A vote along party lines today ended the Senate Medicaid expansion only one day after the Senate Republicans praised the plan's expansion to protect more state residents, Woodburn says. The Business and Industry Association, a group working to improve the state's economic outlook, is on record in support of Medicaid expansion. Meanwhile, the New Hampshire State Senate took the opposite action of its House counterparts, adding back into the budget money cut earlier from social service programs. That according to New Hampshire Public Radio. While the amount is less in the budget proposed by Governor Maggie Hassan, it's nearly $30 million added back into the state's spending plan. Now, the budget under review is a biennial budget, one that will earmark state spending for the next 2 years. And New Hampshire's North Country is getting an economic boost from the state legislature. Senate Bill 30 is now law and focuses on an iconic place in Dixville Notch. Those fond memories many of us have from the Balsams Resort in Dixville Notch may become a reality once again. Governor Maggie Hassan has signed into law a bill that allows the state to back $28 million in bonds, and according to New Hampshire Public Radio, reports this will help pay for the redevelopment of the Balsams. The resort closed back in 2011, and Hassan says reopening it is worth the state's investment. The governor stated that it's important to find a way to redevelop the Balsams, as it will bring jobs into the North Country and tourist dollars into the state as a whole, especially in the Berlin region. The state-backed bond will help Maine businessman Les Otten fund the $143 million he estimates is needed to reopen Dixville Notch Resort. Now, turning to Vermont news, this next story is on development as well, of the watery kind. 3 Vermont towns have voted in favor of an $850,000 project to replace a broken dam. The Valley News reports residents from Thetford, Fairleigh, and West Fairleigh voted Tuesday to replace the dam at Lake Fairleigh. The Maine resident who owns the dam has to sign it over to the towns in order for construction to start this summer. Town officials who have collaborated on the issue for more than 3 years say the decision ultimately came down to taxes. The dam's failure would cause the water line to recede and lakefront property values to suffer, resulting in non-lakefront homeowners to pay the difference. The cost will be split between the 3 towns, with Thetford paying the most at $482,000. The prices are based on equalized values of lakefront property. Well, there are 2 dates coming up for the New Hampshire residents or companies who want to learn more about health insurance companies likely to be part of the Healthcare Exchange. Now, the exchange is under the umbrella of the nation's healthcare law, or the Affordable Care Act. The first session will take place June 5th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Friday, June 5th in Concord at the Brown Building Auditorium. That's at 129 Pleasant Street. And the second session will be held June 25th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Thursday, June 25th in West Lebanon at the Kilton Library Community Room. That's at 80 Main Street. Both sessions will be free and open to the public. Members of the New Hampshire Insurance Department will share information about the 5 insurance companies that have applied to offer plans on the New Hampshire marketplace in 2016. These include Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Better from New Hampshire, Healthy Families, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare of New England, Minuteman Health, and Community Health Options. To reserve a seat for either information session, you can just email Danielle Barrick at ins.newhampshire.gov and specify which session you'd like to attend. Coming up on YCN News, New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte looks to protect citizens' electronic privacy. Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin weighs in on global warming, and New Hampshire State Police remind drivers to not drink and drive this holiday weekend. News, sports, and a check on weather, all coming up when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Laura James. U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte, is joining a Vermont colleague to protect the public's online privacy. Ayotte is co-sponsoring a bipartisan bill introduced by Democrat U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy and Republican Mike Lee of Utah. The bill would update the Electronic Communications Privacy Act to prohibit a third-party service provider from voluntarily disclosing a customer's email or other electronic communications. The bill would update laws put into place decades ago when email didn't exist. Under the bill, the government would need to procure a search warrant based on probable cause in order to access the content of an individual's email or other electronic communications when those communications are stored by a third-party service provider, such as a phone company. Now, the bill would also require the government to notify an individual whose electronic communications have been disclosed and provide the individual with a copy of the search warrant within 10 days. Governor Peter Shumlin announced today that Vermont has signed onto an agreement with leaders from 11 other states to proactively lessen global climate warming. Introduced by California Governor Jerry Brown, the plan calls for limiting the increase in global average temperature to below 2 degrees Celsius. Now, that's the warming threshold at which scientists say there will likely be catastrophic climate disruptions. The plan is known as the Under 2 MOU, or Under 2 Memorandum of Understanding. Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin says climate change can be seen across the nation, from the flooding caused by Tropical Storm Irene to the ongoing drought in California. President Barack Obama says in a speech this week he called on world leaders to address climate change, as it could also lead to political unrest. While this next story may bring better thoughts about the Vermont experience, it's almost time for the annual strolling of the heifers through downtown Brattleboro. The date for the start of this annual festival is Friday, June 5th, with a street festival that night from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Now, the next day, the parade will begin at 10 a.m. where the cows roam the downtown. A cycling event is planned for Sunday, June 7th, with a tour to heifer. What else? The bike race is staggered in its start times and lengths. Now, whether you ride 15, 30, or 60 miles, registration is required. Racers begin at 8, 9, and 10 a.m. To check out all the strolling of the heifers has to offer, including registering for the bike rides, you can go online to strollingoftheheifers.com. And as the Memorial Day weekend approaches, Colonel Quinn and the men and women of the New Hampshire State Police would like to wish the citizens of New Hampshire and those visiting the state much holiday enjoyment. Now, State Police also remind motorists that the consumption of alcohol and driving just do not mix. The public is reminded to designate a sober driver and give that person your keys before any alcohol is consumed. If you can't drive home, call a taxi, a friend or family member to pick you up. Buckle up. Don't mix alcohol and drugs with driving. Don't drive distracted, and simply slow down. If you happen to see a drunk driver on the road, you can call 911. State Police across New England will be monitoring the roadways. Well, as we know, Memorial Day is often considered the start of the summer season, and in Mount Sunapee, a season of activities is planned for all ages.
This weekend, we're very excited to start our 4th season here at the Adventure Park. And for the weekend, this Saturday, May 23rd, we're going to have a little festive outing. We're going to have Dr. Harp's Blues Review playing. There's going to be an outdoor barbecue. And the first 100 people who purchase the Play All Day package, which includes the majority of our activities here, will receive $10 off the package price. So it's a great way for families to come out and have some fun on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. We will be open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekends through June 28th, and then we'll be going 7 days a week, operating 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Aside from our Play All Day package, we also have our Canopy Zipline Tour for groups of up to 8 people. They can go tree to tree and enjoy dangling kind of in the air. It's a lot of fun. We also are starting our downhill mountain biking this year, which will have 1 trail already built for everyone who has their equipment, and we'll be adding 3 more trails as the season moves on.
Definitely some great programs worth checking out. Coming up on YCN News, the Claremont Soup Kitchen is the topic of discussion tonight. We'll join River Valley Chronicles' Elizabeth Durazio for her conversation with director Jan Bonnell when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Mike Pizzone. Well, it was tough to complain about the weather out there today, and it looks like we're in for similar conditions over the next couple days. Skies will become mostly cloudy as we head into the evening with calming winds and a low of 38 degrees. Tomorrow will bring more partly sunny skies with a high of about 68 degrees, though there's a 30% chance we could see some showers midway through the afternoon. Skies will begin to clear up tomorrow evening with a low of 35 degrees, paving the way for a bright sunny skies on Saturday with temperatures in the low to mid-60s. Now let's take a look at our community calendar to see what's happening in the region. The Bellows Falls Farmers Market will be held tomorrow from 4 to 7 p.m. on Canal Street in downtown Bellows Falls, Vermont. Vendors will be selling fresh produce, local grass-fed beef, and much more. The market is held rain or shine and includes live music and story time for children. A bingo night sponsored by PFI will be held tomorrow beginning at 6:30 p.m. at KJ's Place on River Street in North Springfield, Vermont. Doors open at 5 p.m. and cost is $15 per package. The Leominster Historical Society will hold its annual yard sale on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at History Hall on 4 New Hampshire Turnpike in Leominster, New Hampshire. Items include everything from vintage collectibles to household items. Call the number on the screen for more information. The playoffs are still 2 weeks away, but the Stevens baseball team got a sneak peek at one of the top contenders in Division III yesterday.
The Cardinals mustered just 4 hits against Hopkinton pitching and let a pair of errors help the visiting team earn a comfortable victory to maintain its standing among the top 3 teams in the division. The Hawks crossed the plate with their first run of the game on a wild pitch in the first inning and added a single tally in the second on this RBI single before scoring 2 more times in the third on this RBI single and an error on a double steal to up their lead to 4-0. Hopkinton turned to small ball from there as this sacrifice bunt in the 5th inning resulted in the team's 6th run of the day. Stevens crossed the plate with its lone run of the contest in the bottom of the 7th when this single off the bat of Ryan Knapsey set the stages for Evan Spalding's RBI double here to cut the deficit to 7-1. Zach O'Brien also swung his way on base for the Cardinals, as did sophomore Kobe Hussey with this single off Hopkinton starter Luke Raby. Chase Hussey suffered the loss on the hill for Stevens, surrendering 4 earned runs on 6 hits and 2 walks through 5 innings. He struck out 5. Coach Paul Silva's team is now back to 500 on the season at 7-7 and will wrap up its regular season schedule with a pair of home games against Conant tomorrow and Fall Mountain next Wednesday. Stevens is currently 15th in the Division III standings, with the top 20 teams advancing to postseason play.
Jake Viersen surrendered just 2 earned runs over 7 innings of work yesterday to help lift the Kearsarge baseball team to a narrow victory over Bow. Viersen, Ryan Stanley, Ben Newbern, and Stephen St. Jean each finished with a pair of hits for the Cougars. Kearsarge improved to 6-8 with its 3rd win in its last 4 games and will travel to face Bishop Brady tomorrow. The Springfield softball team earned its 2nd straight win over a Division I opponent yesterday behind a dominant effort in the circle from Jay Twombly. The junior gave up just 1 hit in a complete game effort and struck out 11. Brooke Wiley and Karina Nichols each drove in runs for the Cosmos, who improved to 9-2. Springfield will travel to face Otter Valley tomorrow. J.J. Daniels scored what proved to be the game-winning goal early in overtime yesterday to sneak the Hanover girls lacrosse team past formerly unbeaten Wyndham. Daniels' final score was the 4th of the game for the senior, while Molly Siebel led the way with 6 goals and 3 assists. The Marauders now have 4 straight wins and will travel to face John Stark tomorrow. That does it for YCN Sports. I'm Mike Pizzone.
Thanks, Mike. Tomorrow, Mike will have the results of the matchup between Windsor and Woodstock softball. Now, coming up, Capital Connections host John O'Connor brings us part 4 of an academic visit to Africa. John's interview is on the way when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.